The silence broke with 30 consecutive shots, each one finding its mark within a space smaller than most people's thumb. What happened next changed everything anyone thought they knew about precision shooting. The expert who had dismissed her technique just minutes before stood frozen, staring at a target that defied everything he believed about marksmanship fundamentals. The morning air hung thick with the scent of gun oil and leather at the Riverside Shooting Complex. Dew still clung to the wooden benches that lined the covered firing positions, and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the mesh screens that separated each lane. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The range had been open for barely an hour, but the parking lot was already half full with pickup trucks and SUVs, their owners unloading rifle cases and ammunition, boxes with the practiced efficiency of people who had done this countless times before. Inside the main building, coffee brewed in a pot that had seen better days, and the morning regulars gathered around the counter where range cards were signed and safety waivers were processed. The conversation flowed in the comfortable rhythm of people who shared a common passion, discussions about new scopes and ammunition types mixing with weather predictions and weekend plans. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in a sterile white glow that made the hunting photographs on the walls look faded and distant. Marcus Chun adjusted his shooting glasses and checked his watch for the third time in 5 minutes. As the head instructor for the complex's precision rifle program, he prided himself on punctuality and preparation. His students knew to arrive early, equipment ready, minds focused. This morning was different though. This morning, he was expecting someone new. Someone who had specifically requested private instruction, despite having no formal training record on file. The phone call had come in late the previous afternoon. A woman's voice, calm and measured, asking about availability for advanced marksmanship coaching. When Marcus had inquired about her experience level, she had paused for a moment before, simply saying she was self-taught and looking to refine her technique. Self-taught. The words had made him internally wince. In his 15 years of instruction, self-taught shooters were often the most challenging students, arriving with deeply ingrained bad habits that were harder to break than starting from scratch. He walked through the range house, past the display cases filled with vintage rifles and competition trophies, toward the window that overlooked the shooting lanes. The morning light revealed the full scope of the facility. 25 covered positions extending out toward targets at various distances, from the close-range pistol bays to the long-range rifle positions that stretched nearly 1,000 yards into the distance. A few early shooters were already settling into their positions, the familiar sounds of bolt actions cycling and magazines being loaded, creating a symphony that Marcus had grown to love. The door chimed as someone entered. Marcus turned to see a woman in her early 30s, average height, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore simple clothes, faded jeans, a plain gray sweatshirt, and well-worn hiking boots. What caught his attention was the rifle case she carried. It wasn't the expensive hard case that most serious shooters favored, but a soft cloth case that looked like it had been purchased at a discount sporting goods store years ago. "I'm looking for Marcus Chun," she said, approaching the counter. "I'm Sarah Walsh. We spoke yesterday about instruction." Marcus extended his hand, noting her firm handshake and the calluses on her fingers. "Sarah, good to meet you. I've got us set up on lane 15. It's got a good view of the longer targets." He gestured toward the range fees posted on the wall. "Did you bring your own ammunition, or do you need to purchase some here?" Sarah reached into a small canvas bag and pulled out 2 boxes of match-grade ammunition. Marcus glanced at the label and raised an eyebrow. The cartridges were high quality, the kind that serious competitors used, not what he would expect from someone who claimed to be self-taught. "Good choice on the ammunition. That's precision stuff. What rifle are you shooting?" "It's a Remington." 700, she said, unzipping the soft case to reveal a rifle that looked like it had been well maintained, but heavily used. The stock showed signs of handling, and the scope, while decent, was several generations behind the current state-of-the-art equipment that most of Marcus's students brought. Marcus nodded approvingly. The 700 was a solid platform, reliable, and accurate in the right hands. That's a good foundation to work with. What kind of shooting have you been doing on your own? Mostly hunting, Sarah replied, shouldering the rifle case. Some target practice. I've been working on longer range shots lately, trying to understand the fundamentals better. They walked together toward the firing line, passing other shooters who were setting up their equipment. Marcus noticed how Sarah moved with confidence, her steps sure and deliberate. She didn't have the nervous energy that many new students displayed, nor the overconfidence that sometimes came from hunters who thought their deer hunting experience translated directly to precision shooting. Lane 15 was positioned near the center of the range, with a clear view of targets at distances from 100 to 800 yards. Marcus had chosen it specifically because it offered good visibility for instruction and had a comfortable shooting bench that could accommodate different shooting positions. The morning sun was now fully above the horizon, providing excellent lighting conditions for both shooting and observation. Let's start with some basic position work, Marcus sighed, setting down his own equipment bag. I want to see how you naturally approach the rifle and what kind of fundamentals you've developed on your own. Sarah nodded and began setting up her rifle on the bench. Marcus watched carefully, noting how she positioned the bipod legs, adjusted the height of the stock, and settled into her shooting position. Her movements were economical, without the wasted motion that characterized many inexperienced shooters, but there were subtle things that made him frown slightly. Her grip on the rifle was different from what he typically taught. Instead of the standard thumb overgrip that most precision shooters used, she held the rifle with her thumb positioned along the side of the stock, creating what looked like an unstable platform. Her cheek weld appeared inconsistent, and the way she positioned her support hand seemed to introduce unnecessary tension into the system. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Okay, Marcus said, pulling out his spotting scope and setting it up on the adjacent bench. Let's start with the target at 200 yards. I want you to take 5 shots, and don't worry about grouping or accuracy right now. I just want to see your natural shooting process. Sarah loaded 5 rounds into the magazine and cycled the bolt to chamber the first cartridge. The familiar sound of the action closing echoed across the range, mixing with similar sounds from other lanes. She settled into her position, and Marcus watched through his spotting scope as she aligned the rifle with the target. The first shot broke with a clean, crisp sound. Through the scope, Marcus could see the bullet impact just off the center of the target, a respectable shot for someone warming up. The second shot followed quickly, landing close to the first. By the third shot, Marcus was beginning to pay closer attention. Despite her unorthodox technique, Sarah was creating a tight group on the target. Cease fire, Marcus called after the 5th shot. Let's go take a look at what you've got. They walked the 200 yards to the target, passing other shooters, who glanced over curiously. When they reached Sarah's target, Marcus stood silently for a moment, studying the 5 holes clustered in the center ring. The group measured less than 2 inches, a respectable showing for any shooter, let alone someone who claimed to be self-taught. That's solid shooting, Marcus said, making notes on his instruction pad. Your group size is good, but I can see some areas where we can make improvements. Your technique has some unconventional elements that might be limiting your potential. Sarah examined the target, running her finger near the bullet holes without touching them. What specifically would you change? Well, let's start with your grip, Marcus said, walking back toward the firing line. The way you're holding the rifle introduces inconsistencies that compound at longer ranges, and your cheek weld needs to be more repeatable. These things might not matter much at hunting ranges, but for precision work, they become significant factors. Back at the bench, Marcus demonstrated the proper grip technique, explaining how the thumb position affected the rifle's natural point of aim and how consistent pressure created a stable platform. Sarah listened attentively, asking occasional questions that showed she understood the mechanical principles behind his explanations. "Let's try another group with the adjustments," Marcus suggested. "Same distance, but focus on implementing the grip changes we just discussed." Sarah repositioned herself behind the rifle, making conscious adjustments to her hand placement and cheek position. Marcus could see her working through the changes, her movements now more deliberate as she processed the new information. The first shot of the second group felt different to her, the rifle recoiling differently than she was accustomed to. Through his spotting scope, Marcus watched the bullet impact. It was slightly outside the center ring, which wasn't surprising, given that Sarah was adapting to new technique. The second shot was closer to center, and by the third shot, he could see that she was starting to settle into the new position. "That's better," Marcus said as they walked to check the second target. "You can see how the group is starting to tighten up as you get comfortable with the new grip. The process of changing ingrained habits takes time, but the fundamentals are sound." The second group was indeed tighter, measuring just over 1.5 inches. For someone making significant technique changes, it was impressive adaptation. Marcus made more notes, planning the progression of instruction that would help Sarah refine her skills further. "I'd like to try something," Sarah said as they returned to the firing line. "Could we move to a longer distance? Maybe 400 yards?" Marcus hesitated. Most students needed weeks of work on fundamentals before attempting longer-range shots, and Sarah had just started making technique changes. "Let's make sure these new fundamentals are solid at 200 first. Longer range will amplify any inconsistencies in your shooting." "I understand the theory," Sarah said, her voice remaining calm and measured. "But I learn better when I can see the full impact of the changes. The longer distance will give me better feedback about what's working and what isn't." There was something in her tone that made Marcus reconsider. It wasn't cockiness or impatience, but rather a quiet confidence that suggested she had thought through her request carefully. Against his better judgment as an instructor, he found himself nodding. "All right," he said, walking over to the range controls to set up a target at 400 yards. "But we'll take this slowly. 400 yards is where environmental factors start to become significant, and with the technique changes we just made, I want you to focus on process over results." The target at 400 yards appeared much smaller through the scope, a distant white square that required careful alignment and precise holdover calculations. Marcus helped Sarah adjust her scope settings and explained how to compensate for the bullet drop at the extended distance. "Wind is about 5 miles per hour from the left," Marcus said, checking his handheld weather meter. "At this distance, you'll need to compensate about half a minute of angle to the right. Do you understand the correction?" Sarah nodded, making the adjustment to her scope. "I've done some reading on ballistics. The theory makes sense, but I know it's different in practice." She settled into position, working through the new grip and position fundamentals while simultaneously processing the environmental factors that Marcus had described. The first shot at 400 yards took longer to set up, Sarah taking time to verify her natural point of aim and ensure that her breathing was controlled. The shot broke cleanly, and Marcus immediately swung his spotting scope to the target. The bullet had impacted just outside the center ring, slightly low and to the right of the intended point of aim. Not bad for a first shot at the distance, especially with technique changes, but Marcus could see areas for improvement. "You're fighting the new grip a little," he observed. "The shot placement suggests you're not fully settled into the position before breaking the trigger." Take more time on the second shot to really establish the new fundamentals. Sarah cycled the bolt and chambered the next round, this time spending more time in position before committing to the shot. The second bullet impacted closer to the center, and Marcus could see that she was beginning to trust the new technique. By the fifth shot, Sarah had created a group that measured just under 3 inches at 400 yards. Marcus was quietly impressed. Many of his students struggled to achieve that level of precision even after weeks of instruction, and Sarah was accomplishing it while simultaneously adapting to significant technique changes. "That's very good shooting," Marcus said as they examined the target. "You're adapting to the new fundamentals faster than most students. Your natural ability is evident, but I still think we need to spend more time on the basics before pushing to longer ranges." Sarah studied the group pattern, noting how the shots clustered and where the variations occurred. "I appreciate what you're teaching me," she said, "but I think I understand my limitations differently than you might expect. Could we try 600 yards? Marcus felt his instructor instincts pushing back against the request. 600 yards was serious long-range shooting, requiring not just good fundamentals, but also a deep understanding of environmental factors and ballistic principles. Students typically needed months of preparation before attempting such distances. "Sarah, I understand your enthusiasm, but 600 yards is a significant jump. The environmental factors become much more complex, and small errors in fundamentals get magnified dramatically. I really think we should consolidate what we've learned so far." "I understand your concerns," Sarah replied, her tone remaining respectful but determined, "but I think I might surprise you. I've been working on this longer than our conversation might suggest, and I learn best when I can see the full scope of the challenge." There was something in her quiet confidence that made Marcus pause. He had been teaching for 15 years, and he had developed good instincts about students' capabilities. Sarah's shooting so far had been impressive, but more than that, her approach to learning and adaptation suggested a depth of understanding that went beyond what most self-taught shooters possessed. "All right," he said finally, "but we're going to take this very methodically. 600 yards is where precision shooting really begins, and I want you to understand exactly what we're attempting." Marcus spent the next 20 minutes explaining the complexities of long-range shooting, wind reading, atmospheric conditions, bullet flight time, and the mechanical precision required to achieve consistent results. Sarah listened carefully, asking questions that demonstrated she was processing the information at a deeper level than most students. The 600-yard target looked impossibly small through the scope, a white square that seemed to waver in the heat mirage that was beginning to form as the morning sun climbed higher. Marcus helped Sarah calculate the ballistic solution, explaining how the bullet would drop nearly 60 inches at that distance and how even small errors in wind reading could push the impact several inches off target. "The key at this distance is patience," Marcus said. "Take your time to read the wind, establish your position, and don't rush the shot. The target will be there when you're ready." Sarah settled into position, and Marcus could see that she was applying all the fundamentals they had discussed. Her grip was now consistent with his instruction, her breathing controlled, and her approach to the shot deliberate and methodical. The first shot at 600 yards took nearly 3 minutes to set up, Sarah taking time to read the wind flags and establish her natural point of aim. When the shot broke, Marcus immediately swung his spotting scope to the target. The bullet had impacted in the center ring, a remarkable achievement for a first shot at that distance. He double-checked his observation, making sure he was seeing correctly. "That's an excellent shot," he said, genuine admiration in his voice. "Dead center. Your wind reading was perfect, and your execution was textbook." Sarah cycled the bolt and prepared for the second shot. This time, she settled into position more quickly, her confidence growing with the successful first shot. The second bullet impacted just inches from the first, creating the beginning of what promised to be an impressive group. By the time Sarah had fired all 5 shots, Marcus was staring at a group that measured less than 4 inches at 600 yards. It was shooting that many of his advanced students would be proud of, accomplished by someone who had started the morning with what he considered flawed fundamentals. "I have to admit," Marcus said as they walked to examine the target, "I'm impressed. Your natural ability is exceptional, and your adaptation to the technique changes has been remarkable. You're shooting better than students who have been training for years." Sarah examined the target, noting the tight cluster of bullet holes near the center. "Thank you. I appreciate your instruction. The grip changes you showed me made a real difference in consistency." Marcus made extensive notes, documenting Sarah's progress and the techniques that had proven most effective. As an instructor, he prided himself on his ability to identify talent and develop it properly, but Sarah's rapid improvement was beyond anything he had experienced. "I think we should probably call it a day," he said, checking his watch. "You've made remarkable progress, but I want to give you time to process what we've covered. Pushing too hard too fast can sometimes lead to developing bad habits." Sarah nodded, but Marcus could see something in her expression that suggested she wasn't quite ready to stop. "I understand your point about not pushing too hard," she said, "but I was wondering if we could try one more distance, just to see how the fundamentals translate." "What distance did you have in mind?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. 800 yards, Sarah said simply. "I know it's a significant jump, but I think it would help me understand the full scope of what these fundamentals can accomplish." Marcus felt his professional instincts warring with his curiosity. 800 yards was the longest distance available at the range, reserved for the most experienced shooters. The environmental factors at that distance were complex and unforgiving, requiring not just technical skill, but also a deep understanding of ballistic principles. Sarah, 800 yards is expert-level shooting. The calculations become much more complex, and the margin for error is essentially zero. Most people need years of training before attempting that distance. "I understand," Sarah said, her tone remaining calm and respectful. "But I think I might be ready for the challenge. And if I'm not, the experience will teach me what I need to work on." Marcus studied her face, looking for signs of overconfidence or bravado. Instead, he saw the same quiet determination that had characterized her entire approach to the morning's instruction. There was something about Sarah that defied his normal categories of student assessment. "All right," he said finally, "but we do this exactly as I instruct. 800 yards is serious business, and I want you to understand that we're entering territory where small mistakes have large consequences." Marcus spent the next half hour explaining the complexities of extreme long-range shooting. At 800 yards, the bullet would drop over 200 inches, taking nearly a full second to reach the target. Wind effects were magnified exponentially, and the shooter needed to account for atmospheric pressure, temperature, and humidity variations that had minimal impact at shorter distances. Sarah listened intently, asking questions that demonstrated she was processing the information at a sophisticated level. Her questions focused on the interaction between different variables rather than just the mechanics of calculation, suggesting an understanding that went beyond simple memorization of formulas. The 800-yard target was barely visible to the naked eye, a small white square that seemed to disappear entirely in the heat mirage. Through the scope, it appeared as a distant speck that wavered and danced in the atmospheric disturbance created by the warming air. "The key here is reading the wind at multiple points along the bullet's path," Marcus explained. "What you see at the firing line might be completely different from what's happening at the target. Look at the flags at different distances, and try to build a mental picture of the wind conditions." Sarah studied the range, noting how the wind flags moved at different points along the bullet's path. Near the firing line, The flags hung nearly still, but at longer distances they showed more movement. The complexity of the wind reading at 800 yards was unlike anything she had encountered during her private practice sessions. "I think I understand the wind pattern," Sarah said after several minutes of observation. "It looks like there's a slight left-to-right wind building as it gets closer to the target." Marcus nodded approvingly. "That's a good read. The wind is definitely stronger downrange than it is here. How do you plan to compensate for that?" Sarah made calculations on a small notepad, working through the ballistic solution with the methodical approach that Marcus had taught her. Her mathematics were sound, and her compensation factors fell within the range of what Marcus would have recommended. "That looks correct," Marcus said, reviewing her calculations. "Remember, at this distance, the bullet flight time is significant. The wind conditions might change between when you fire and when the bullet reaches the target. Be prepared to adjust for your next shot, based on what you observe." Sarah settled into position, taking even more time than she had for the 600-yard shots. The fundamentals that Marcus had taught her were now second nature, but the additional complexity of the 800-yard shot required careful attention to every detail. The first shot took nearly 5 minutes to set up. Sarah read and reread the wind conditions, verified her ballistic solution, and ensured that her position was as stable as possible. When the shot finally broke, Marcus immediately swung his spotting scope to the target. The bullet had impacted in the outer ring of the target, slightly high and to the left of the intended point of aim. For a first shot at 800 yards, it was a respectable result, but Marcus could see areas for improvement in the wind reading and elevation calculation. "Good shot," Marcus said, "but I think you underestimated the wind effect in the middle section of the bullet's path. The impact suggests the wind pushed the bullet more than you calculated." Sarah nodded, making notes about the wind conditions and adjusting her mental model of the atmospheric effects. The second shot incorporated the lessons learned from the first, and the bullet impact was significantly closer to the center of the target. By the fifth shot, Sarah had created a group at 800 yards that measured just over 6 inches. Marcus stood quietly beside his spotting scope, processing what he had just witnessed. In a single morning, Sarah had progressed from technique corrections at 200 yards to creating a respectable group at 800 yards. "That is exceptional shooting," Marcus said, genuine admiration clear in his voice. "I've had students train for years without achieving that level of precision at 800 yards. Your natural ability combined with your adaptation to proper fundamentals is remarkable." Sarah studied the target through her rifle scope, noting the pattern of bullet impacts and the areas where her shots had grouped tightly. "I can see where I need to improve my wind reading," she said. The middle shots were more consistent than the first and last ones. Marcus made extensive notes, documenting not just Sarah's shooting performance, but also her approach to learning and problem solving. As an instructor, he had developed methods for identifying and developing talent, but Sarah's rapid progression was beyond his normal experience. "I think that's enough for today," Marcus said, beginning to pack up his spotting scope. "You've made remarkable progress, and I want to give you time to process what we've covered. We could schedule another session next week to continue working on these fundamentals." Sarah nodded, but Marcus could see that she was still processing the morning's experience. "I appreciate everything you've taught me," she said. "The grip changes and position work made a real difference. I can see how proper fundamentals translate to better performance at longer ranges." As they walked back toward the range house, Marcus found himself reconsidering his assessment of Sarah's abilities. Her shooting had been impressive, but more than that, her approach to learning and adaptation suggested a depth of understanding that went beyond what most self-taught shooters possessed. There was something about her quiet confidence and methodical approach that reminded him of the most skilled competitive shooters he had encountered. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said as they reached the parking area. "You mentioned that you're self-taught, but your shooting today suggests a level of understanding that typically comes from extensive formal training. Have you been working with other instructors?" Sarah paused, considering her answer. "I've done a lot of reading and practice on my own," she said finally. "I study ballistics and shooting theory, and I spend a lot of time practicing. But you're the first formal instructor I've worked with." Marcus nodded, but he could sense there was more to Sarah's story than she was sharing. The level of shooting she had demonstrated, particularly her rapid adaptation to technique changes and her sophisticated understanding of environmental factors, suggested experience that went beyond casual self-instruction. "Well, whatever your background," Marcus said, "you have exceptional natural ability. If you're interested in competitive shooting, I think you could excel at the highest levels. The fundamentals are there, and your ability to adapt and improve is remarkable." Sarah thanked him and began loading her equipment into her vehicle. As Marcus watched her drive away, he found himself thinking about the morning's instruction session. In 15 years of teaching, he had never seen a student progress so rapidly or demonstrate such natural ability combined with technical understanding. There was something about Sarah Walsh that didn't quite fit the profile of a typical self-taught shooter. Her equipment was modest, her approach was unassuming, but her shooting performance and technical understanding suggested a level of experience that went beyond what she had described. Marcus made a mental note to keep track of her progress and perhaps recommend her for some of the more advanced training programs available in the area. As he finished packing his own equipment, Marcus reflected on the morning's experience. Teaching precision shooting required not just technical knowledge, but also the ability to recognize and develop talent. Sarah's rapid progression and exceptional natural ability made her the kind of student that instructors remembered long after the formal training had ended. The range was busier now, with afternoon shooters beginning to arrive and set up their equipment. Marcus nodded to several familiar faces as he walked toward his truck, already planning the follow-up instruction session that would help Sarah continue developing her remarkable abilities. There was something about her quiet confidence and methodical approach that suggested she had specific goals in mind for her shooting development. Marcus had learned to recognize the signs of serious commitment in students, and Sarah displayed all the characteristics of someone who was preparing for challenges that went beyond casual target shooting. As he drove home, Marcus found himself curious about Sarah's background and her plans for applying the skills she was developing. The level of shooting she had demonstrated, combined with her sophisticated understanding of ballistic principles and environmental factors, suggested preparation for something more demanding than recreational shooting. Whatever her goals, Marcus was confident that Sarah Walsh was someone who would continue to surprise and impress anyone who had the opportunity to observe her shooting. The morning's instruction session had been just the beginning of what promised to be a remarkable journey of skill development and achievement. The following Tuesday brought rain that drummed against the windows of the Riverside Shooting Complex with a steady persistence that seemed to match the rhythm of Marcus Chun's growing curiosity. 3 days had passed since his instruction session with Sarah Walsh, and he found himself thinking about her shooting performance more often than he cared to admit. The image of her 5-shot group at 800 yards kept surfacing in his mind, particularly during his sessions with other students who struggled to achieve half that precision at much shorter distances. Marcus stood in the pro shop organizing inventory and answering questions from customers who browsed the selection of scopes and ammunition. The familiar routine of retail work provided a comfortable backdrop for his thoughts, but every time someone mentioned long-range shooting or precision marksmanship, his mind wandered back to Sarah's remarkable performance. There had been something about her approach that bothered him, not because it was wrong, but because it suggested a level of preparation and understanding that didn't align with her claimed background. The bell above the front door chimed, and Marcus looked up to see Tom Bradley enter, shaking rain from his jacket. Tom was a regular at the range, a retired military sniper who now worked as a civilian contractor training law enforcement precision shooters. His presence at the complex was usually a harbinger of interesting conversations about advanced shooting techniques and the latest developments in long-range marksmanship. "Marcus," Tom said, approaching the counter with his characteristic direct manner, "I heard you had an interesting student the other day. Someone who impressed you with their shooting." Marcus paused in his inventory work, wondering how word of Sarah's performance had reached Tom. The shooting community was small and interconnected, but news of exceptional performance usually traveled through competitive circles rather than casual instruction sessions. "Where did you hear about that?" Marcus asked, setting down the scope he had been examining. "Dave Morrison mentioned it," Tom replied, referring to another instructor who worked at the complex. "Said you were talking about a self-taught shooter who adapted to technique changes faster than most students. That kind of performance usually catches attention in our business." Marcus nodded, remembering his conversation with Dave about Sarah's rapid progression. "She was remarkable," he admitted. "I've never seen anyone adapt to fundamental changes so quickly while maintaining such precision." By the end of the session, she was shooting groups at 800 yards that would be competitive in formal matches. Tom leaned against the counter, his expression thoughtful. "Self-taught, you said. That's unusual. Most people who develop that level of skill have some formal background, even if they don't advertise it. Military, law enforcement, competitive shooting. Something that provides the foundation for that kind of precision." "That's what I thought, too," Marcus said, but she insisted she was self-taught. Said she'd been practicing on her own and reading about ballistics and shooting theory. Her equipment was modest, nothing fancy, but her understanding of environmental factors and ballistic principles was sophisticated. Tom nodded slowly, his expression suggesting he was processing information that Marcus couldn't see. "What did she look like? Age? General appearance?" Marcus described Sarah's appearance, noting her calm demeanor and the calluses on her hands that suggested extensive shooting practice. As he spoke, he noticed Tom's expression becoming more focused, as if the description was triggering some recognition. "Did she mention what kind of shooting she was interested in?" Tom asked. "Competition, hunting, just general skill development?" "She said she wanted to refine her technique," Marcus replied. "But now that I think about it, she was very focused on longer ranges. Most hunting applications don't require the kind of precision she was developing, and she adapted to instruction like someone who had specific goals in mind." Tom was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming against the counter in a rhythm that suggested he was weighing his words carefully. "Marcus, I want to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully about your answer. Did anything about this woman suggest she might have professional training? Military bearing, specific terminology, approach to problem solving?" Marcus considered the question, thinking back through his interaction with Sarah. "There was something," he said finally. "Her approach to learning was very methodical. She asked questions that showed she understood the interaction between different variables, not just the mechanics of shooting. And she was completely calm under pressure, even when attempting distances that challenge experienced shooters." "I think I might know who you're talking about," Tom said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "If I'm right, you've been working with someone who has considerably more experience than she let on. Someone who probably has reasons for keeping her background quiet." Marcus felt a chill of understanding. "Are you saying she's military?" "I'm saying she might be someone who works in a field where discretion is important," Tom replied carefully. "Someone who might be using civilian instruction to refine skills that she already possesses at a professional level. The kind of person who would downplay her abilities to avoid drawing attention." The implications of Tom's words settled over Marcus like a heavy blanket. If Sarah was indeed someone with professional training, her performance during their instruction session took on a completely different meaning. The rapid adaptation to technique changes, the sophisticated understanding of ballistic principles, the calm precision under pressure, all of these could be indicators of someone who had been trained to shoot at the highest levels. Why would someone like that seek civilian instruction? Marcus asked. Could be several reasons, Tom said. Maybe she's working on specific aspects of her shooting that aren't covered in her regular training. Maybe she's preparing for a particular assignment or competition. Or maybe she's trying to develop skills that go beyond her normal operational requirements. Marcus thought about the specific techniques Sarah had been most interested in learning. The grip modifications he had taught her were primarily beneficial for extreme long-range shooting, the kind of precision work that was required for distances beyond what most military or law enforcement applications demanded. She was very focused on consistency at long range, Marcus said. 800 yards and beyond. The kind of shooting that requires not just technical skill, but also a deep understanding of environmental factors and ballistic principles. Tom nodded, his expression suggesting that this information confirmed his suspicions. That's specialized stuff. Most people don't need that level of precision unless they're preparing for something specific. Competition shooting, specialized military applications, or... He trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished. Or what? Marcus prompted. Tom looked around the pro shop, ensuring their conversation remained private. Or they're preparing for work that requires precision at extreme distances. The kind of work that civilian contractors sometimes do for government agencies or private security firms. The weight of Tom's implications settled over Marcus. If Sarah was indeed preparing for professional applications that required extreme precision shooting, her modest demeanor and self-taught claims took on the character of deliberate misdirection. She wouldn't be the first person to seek civilian instruction to supplement professional training without revealing her true background. What should I do if she contacts me for more instruction? Marcus asked. Treat her like any other student, Tom replied. If she wants to keep her background private, that's her choice. But you might want to focus on the kinds of skills that would be useful for someone working at the highest levels of precision shooting. Environmental reading, ballistic calculations for extreme distances, techniques for maintaining precision under stress. Marcus nodded, understanding that Tom was suggesting he provide Sarah with instruction that would be valuable for someone with professional applications in mind. The ethical implications were complex, but if Sarah was indeed someone who worked in a field where precision shooting was professionally required, helping her develop her skills could be viewed as a public service. I'll keep this conversation between us, Marcus said. But I appreciate you sharing your insights. It explains a lot about her performance and her approach to learning. Tom clapped Marcus on the shoulder. She's probably good people, just working in a field where discretion is important. If she comes back, give her the best instruction you can. Skills like hers are rare, and if she's using them in service of something important, she deserves the best training available. After Tom left, Marcus continued his inventory work, but his mind was occupied with thoughts about Sarah's true identity and purpose. The possibility that she was someone with professional training who was seeking to refine her skills for specialized applications cast her performance in a completely different light. Instead of being impressed by a talented amateur, he had been working with someone who might be among the most skilled shooters in the country. The rain continued to fall outside, and Marcus found himself wondering what kind of work Sarah might be preparing for that required such extreme precision. The techniques she had been most interested in learning were applicable to situations where a single shot at extreme distance might be the difference between mission success and failure. It was sobering to think that his instruction might be contributing to someone's preparation for such high-stakes applications. 2 days later, Marcus received another phone call from Sarah, Her voice was as calm and measured as he remembered, but now he listened with different ears, trying to detect any hints about her true background and purpose. "I was hoping to schedule another instruction session," Sarah said. "I've been practicing the techniques you taught me, and I'd like to work on some more advanced applications." "I'd be happy to continue working with you," Marcus replied. "What specific areas would you like to focus on?" "I'm interested in shooting under different environmental conditions," Sarah said. "Wind, temperature variations, atmospheric pressure changes. I want to understand how these factors affect precision at extreme distances." Marcus felt a chill of recognition. Sarah was asking for exactly the kind of instruction that someone with professional applications would need. The ability to maintain precision under varying environmental conditions was crucial for operational shooting, where the luxury of perfect conditions was rarely available. "That's advanced material," Marcus said. "We'd need to schedule sessions under different weather conditions and at different times of day to experience the full range of environmental variables." "I understand," Sarah replied. "I'm prepared to work around weather conditions and scheduling challenges. This is important to me." Marcus detected something in her voice that suggested the importance she mentioned went beyond personal interest or hobby shooting. There was an undertone of urgency that implied she was preparing for something specific and time-sensitive. "I can arrange sessions that will expose you to different environmental conditions," Marcus said. "We'll need to be flexible with scheduling and prepared to shoot in less than ideal weather." "That won't be a problem," Sarah said immediately. "I'm available whenever conditions are suitable for instruction." After ending the call, Marcus sat in his office, thinking about the implications of Sarah's request. Training in variable environmental conditions was exactly what someone would need if they were preparing for operational shooting, where perfect conditions couldn't be guaranteed. The fact that she was willing to shoot in poor weather suggested a level of commitment that went beyond recreational interest. Marcus began planning a series of instruction sessions that would expose Sarah to the full range of environmental challenges that affected precision shooting. Rain, wind, temperature extremes, humidity variations, and atmospheric pressure changes all affected bullet flight in ways that casual shooters rarely experienced. If Sarah was indeed preparing for professional applications, she would need to understand and compensate for all of these factors. The following week, Marcus had the opportunity to observe Sarah's shooting under challenging conditions. A cold front had moved through the area, bringing gusty winds and temperature drops that significantly affected ballistic performance. Most recreational shooters would have postponed their range sessions, but Sarah arrived prepared for the difficult conditions. Marcus watched her set up her equipment with the same methodical approach he had observed during their first session, but now he noticed details that suggested professional training. The way she positioned her shooting mat, the efficiency of her equipment organization, the systematic approach to environmental assessment, all of these suggested someone who had been trained to shoot under operational conditions. "The wind is gusting between 15 and 25 miles per hour, Marcus observed, checking his weather instruments. Most shooters would consider these conditions too challenging for precision work. "I understand," Sarah replied, studying the wind flags at various distances down the range. "But I need to learn how to maintain precision when conditions aren't ideal." Marcus helped her calculate the complex wind corrections required for shooting in gusty conditions. Unlike steady winds, which could be compensated for with consistent hold-off, gusty winds required the shooter to time their shots for lulls in the wind or to make rapid adjustments based on real-time wind reading. "The key is patience," Marcus explained. "You need to wait for windows of opportunity when the wind conditions are favorable, or learn to shoot quickly when you see a brief lull in the gusts." Sarah nodded, settling into her shooting position with the same calm focus he had observed during their previous sessions. The first shot at 600 yards was challenging, requiring her to wait nearly 2 minutes for a brief lull in the wind. When she finally took the shot, the bullet impacted within inches of the target center, demonstrating remarkable patience and wind-reading ability. "Excellent shot," Marcus said, genuinely impressed. Reading gusty winds is one of the most challenging aspects of precision shooting, and you handled it like someone with considerable experience. Sarah continued shooting, demonstrating an ability to adapt to changing wind conditions that exceeded what Marcus would expect from most recreational shooters. Her shots were consistently accurate despite the challenging conditions, and her approach to environmental assessment showed sophistication that suggested extensive training. "You're handling these conditions remarkably well," Marcus observed, after Sarah had completed a series of shots at various distances. "Most shooters need years of experience to develop this level of environmental awareness." "I've spent a lot of time practicing under different conditions," Sarah replied, her standard response to questions about her background. "I think real-world application requires the ability to shoot accurately regardless of environmental factors." Marcus noted the phrase real-world application, which suggested Sarah was indeed preparing for situations where precision shooting would be required under operational conditions. The term implied use beyond recreational shooting or even competition, suggesting applications where accuracy under stress and variable conditions would be crucial. Over the following weeks, Marcus continued working with Sarah under increasingly challenging conditions. They shot in rain, during temperature extremes, and under various atmospheric pressure conditions. Each session revealed new aspects of Sarah's abilities and her systematic approach to developing skills that would be applicable under operational conditions. During one particularly challenging session, with temperatures in the low 20s and wind gusts exceeding 30 miles per hour, Marcus watched Sarah maintain precision that would have been impressive under ideal conditions. Her equipment handling remained efficient despite the cold, and her ability to read environmental conditions and make appropriate corrections was remarkable. "This is exceptional shooting," Marcus said, reviewing Sarah's performance during the challenging conditions. "You're maintaining precision that most competitive shooters would struggle with under these conditions." "Thank you," Sarah replied, her breath visible in the cold air. "I appreciate your instruction. The techniques you've taught me have made a significant difference in my ability to maintain accuracy under variable conditions." Marcus had begun to suspect that Sarah's appreciation for his instruction was genuine, but that she was applying his techniques to skills that far exceeded what she had revealed. The systematic way she approached each challenge, the questions she asked about extreme environmental conditions, and her consistent ability to maintain precision under stress all suggested someone who was operating at a professional level. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said as they packed up their equipment after the cold weather session. "Your interest in shooting under challenging conditions suggests you're preparing for something specific. Are you planning to compete in precision rifle competitions?" Sarah paused in her equipment packing, considering her answer. "I'm interested in developing my skills to the highest level possible," she said finally. "I want to be able to shoot accurately under any conditions I might encounter." The phrase "conditions I might encounter" suggested that Sarah was indeed preparing for situations where precision shooting would be required, but she remained unwilling to discuss the specific nature of those situations. Marcus respected her privacy while noting that her training requests continued to focus on skills that would be valuable for operational applications. As their training sessions continued, Marcus began to recognize that Sarah was probably one of the most skilled shooters he had ever worked with. Her abilities exceeded those of most competitive shooters, and her approach to skill development was systematic and professional. Whatever her true background, she was someone who took precision shooting seriously and was willing to invest the time and effort necessary to achieve excellence. The realization that he was probably working with someone who had professional training in precision shooting was both humbling and exciting for Marcus. As an instructor, he prided himself on his ability to develop talent. But Sarah's abilities suggested that he was providing refinement training to someone who already possessed skills at the highest levels. Marcus began to focus their sessions on the most advanced aspects of precision shooting, including techniques for maintaining accuracy under extreme stress, methods for rapid environmental assessment, and strategies for shooting in tactical situations. Sarah absorbed this instruction with the same calm efficiency she had shown from the beginning. But Marcus could see that these advanced techniques were particularly relevant to her interests. During one session focused on shooting under time pressure, Marcus set up scenarios that required Sarah to achieve precision hits within tight time constraints. The exercises were designed to simulate operational conditions, where shooters might have limited time to set up and execute shots under stress. Sarah's performance under these conditions was remarkable. She maintained her methodical approach, while significantly reducing her setup time, and her accuracy remained consistent even when operating under artificial time pressure. Her ability to prioritize the most important elements of shot execution while maintaining precision was impressive. "You're handling time pressure exceptionally well," Marcus observed. "Most shooters see their accuracy degrade significantly when they're required to shoot quickly. I found that having a systematic approach helps maintain consistency even when time is limited," Sarah replied. "If you know which elements of shot execution are most critical, you can focus on those while still maintaining precision." Marcus noted that Sarah's approach to time pressure shooting was sophisticated and suggested someone who had thought carefully about the challenges of operational shooting. Her ability to prioritize critical elements while maintaining precision under stress was exactly what someone would need if they were required to shoot accurately in high-pressure situations. As their training relationship continued, Marcus found himself increasingly curious about Sarah's true background and the applications for which she was preparing. Her requests for instruction continued to focus on skills that would be valuable for professional precision shooting, and her abilities consistently exceeded what he would expect from even the most dedicated recreational shooters. The combination of Sarah's exceptional natural ability, her systematic approach to skill development, and her focus on advanced techniques that were applicable to operational shooting suggested that Marcus was working with someone who operated at the highest levels of precision marksmanship. Whatever her true identity, she was someone who took her shooting seriously and was willing to invest the time and effort necessary to achieve excellence under any conditions. Marcus began to look forward to their sessions, not just as instruction opportunities, but as chances to work with someone who pushed the boundaries of what was possible with precision shooting. Sarah's abilities challenged his own understanding of advanced marksmanship and forced him to think more deeply about the techniques and principles that governed extreme precision shooting. The mystery of Sarah's true background remained, but Marcus had come to respect her privacy while appreciating the opportunity to work with someone who represented the pinnacle of precision shooting skill. Their training sessions had become a masterclass in advanced marksmanship, with Sarah's abilities serving as both inspiration and challenge for Marcus's own understanding of what was possible with dedicated training and exceptional natural talent. Whatever Sarah was preparing for, Marcus was confident that she would be ready. Her skills, combined with the advanced techniques they had been developing together, would serve her well in any situation where precision shooting was required. The thought that his instruction might be contributing to someone's preparation for important professional applications was both sobering and gratifying for Marcus as an instructor who had dedicated his career to developing exceptional marksmanship skills. The morning of the Regional Precision Rifle Championship arrived with crystalline clarity, the kind of weather that made experienced shooters smile with anticipation. Marcus stood at the registration table, reviewing competitor lists and checking equipment specifications, when he noticed a familiar name that made him pause mid-sentence. Sarah Walsh was registered for the expert division, listed with a shooting club from 3 counties away that he had never heard her mention. The championship drew competitors from across the region, including some of the finest precision shooters in the country. Military and law enforcement teams used the event as training and skill assessment, while civilian competitors brought custom rifles worth more than most people's cars. It was not an event where unknown shooters typically appeared, much less succeeded. Marcus walked through the competitor area, observing the elaborate setups that serious competitive shooters brought to major events. Custom rifle cases, sophisticated ballistic computers, weather monitoring equipment that rivaled what meteorologists used. The atmosphere buzzed with the confident chatter of shooters who had spent years perfecting their craft and thousands of dollars optimizing their equipment. Near the far end of the preparation area, Marcus spotted Sarah setting up her equipment with the same understated efficiency he had observed during their training sessions. Her setup remained modest compared to the elaborate rigs surrounding her, but Marcus noticed subtle changes that suggested she had been preparing for serious competition. Her scope was new, a high-end model designed for extreme long-range work, and her rifle showed signs of recent modifications that would improve accuracy and consistency. "Sarah," Marcus called out, approaching her position. "I didn't know you were planning to compete. This is quite a step up from our training sessions." Sarah looked up from her equipment organization, her expression showing mild surprise at seeing Marcus. "I decided to test what I've learned," she said simply. "Your instruction helped me understand areas where I needed improvement, so I thought competition would be a good way to assess my progress." Marcus noticed other competitors glancing in their direction, curious about the unknown shooter who had appeared in the expert division. The competitive shooting community was small and interconnected, and unfamiliar faces at major events typically drew attention. Sarah's modest equipment and quiet demeanor contrasted sharply with the high-profile setups and confident attitudes that characterized most expert-level competitors. "The expert division here includes some of the best shooters in the country," Marcus said, gesturing toward the elaborate equipment displays around them. "Military precision teams, championship-level civilians, shooters who compete internationally. Are you sure you're ready for this level of competition?" "I suppose I'll find out," Sarah replied, continuing her methodical equipment preparation. "Competition will show me where my skills actually stand compared to serious shooters." Marcus watched Sarah's preparation routine, noting the same calm efficiency that had characterized their training sessions. Her approach remained systematic and deliberate, showing none of the nervous energy that typically affected shooters at their first major competition. The confidence in her movements suggested someone who was prepared for the challenges ahead, despite her claims about testing her skills. The morning briefing gathered all competitors in the main pavilion, where range officials explained the course of fire and scoring procedures. The championship would consist of multiple stages shot at distances from 400 to 1,200 yards, with environmental conditions that would challenge even experienced competitors. Wind patterns were complex, with shifting conditions that would require constant adjustment and sophisticated reading skills. Marcus positioned himself where he could observe Sarah during the briefing, curious about her reaction to the competition. Format. She listened attentively, taking notes on a small pad, but showed none of the apprehension that typically affected newcomers to major competitions. Her questions during the technical briefing demonstrated understanding of advanced shooting principles that exceeded what most amateur competitors possessed. Stage 3 will be shot at 1,000 yards with a time limit of 8 minutes for 5 shots, the range officer announced. Wind conditions at that distance are forecast to be variable, with gusts up to 20 miles per hour. Shooters will need to demonstrate advanced environmental reading skills to achieve competitive scores. Marcus noticed Sarah making detailed notes about the stage requirements, paying particular attention to the environmental factors that would affect long-range shooting. Her preparation suggested she understood the complexity of shooting at extreme distances under challenging conditions, knowledge that typically came from extensive experience rather than casual training. The first stage began at 400 yards, a distance that allowed competitors to warm up while demonstrating fundamental shooting skills. Marcus positioned himself at the spotting area where he could observe Sarah's performance alongside the other expert division competitors. The stage required 10 shots in 15 minutes, with scoring based on precision rather than speed. Sarah's approach to the first stage was methodical and deliberate. She spent more time than most competitors establishing her position and reading environmental conditions, but her shots were consistently precise. Marcus watched through his spotting scope as her bullets created a tight group near the center of the target, rivaling the performance of the most experienced competitors. "Who's the shooter in lane 12? Asked David Chen, a competitive shooter from the state championship team. "Her grouping is exceptional for someone I don't recognize." Marcus glanced toward lane 12, where Sarah was completing her string of fire. "She's been training with me for precision shooting," he replied. "This is her first major competition." David raised his eyebrows in surprise. "First competition? Her shooting suggests considerably more experience than that. Look at her group size compared to the veterans in the neighboring lanes." Marcus observed Sarah's target, noting that her 10-shot group measured smaller than those achieved by shooters with years of competitive experience. Her performance was not just good for a newcomer, but exceptional by any standard. The precision she demonstrated exceeded what he had observed during their private training sessions. As the competition progressed to longer distances, Sarah's performance continued to impress observers. At 600 yards, her groups remained tight despite increasing wind conditions. At 800 yards, she demonstrated environmental reading skills that rivaled those of experienced competitive shooters. Her calm approach and consistent execution set her apart from competitors who struggled with the challenging conditions. Marcus found himself torn between pride in his instruction and growing certainty that Sarah's abilities extended far beyond what she had revealed. Her performance under competition pressure was remarkable, showing none of the degradation that typically affected shooters at their first major event. Instead, she seemed to thrive under the challenging conditions and scrutiny of serious competition. During the break between stages, Marcus approached Sarah's shooting position. She was cleaning her rifle with the same methodical care he had observed during their training sessions, but he noticed new details that suggested extensive experience. Her cleaning routine was efficient and professional, the kind of systematic approach that came from years of maintaining precision equipment under field conditions. "Your shooting has been exceptional," Marcus said. "You're outperforming competitors with years of experience. Are you sure this is your first competition?" Sarah paused in her cleaning routine, meeting Marcus's gaze directly. "This is my first civilian competition," she said carefully. "But you're right that I have more experience than I initially shared. I apologize for not being completely forthcoming about my background." Marcus felt a chill of understanding. Sarah's careful phrasing suggested that while this might be her first civilian competition, she had extensive experience in other competitive formats, military competitions, law enforcement events, or other professional shooting venues that would explain her remarkable skill level. "I appreciate your honesty," Marcus said. "Your performance today makes it clear that you've had advanced training. I'm curious about why you sought civilian instruction if you already possess these skills." "Your instruction helped me refine techniques that I needed for specific applications," Sarah replied. "Sometimes civilian perspectives offer insights that complement professional training. The grip modifications you taught me made a significant difference in my consistency at extreme ranges." Marcus nodded, understanding that Sarah was confirming his suspicions about her professional background while maintaining discretion about the specific nature of her work. Her focus on extreme range consistency suggested applications that went beyond typical competitive shooting, requiring precision under conditions that civilian competitions couldn't replicate. The afternoon brought the most challenging stages of the competition, with shots at 1,000 and 1,200 yards under increasingly difficult wind conditions. These distances separated expert shooters from exceptional ones, requiring not just technical skill, but also sophisticated understanding of environmental factors and ballistic principles. Marcus positioned himself at the scoring area, where he could observe the targets as shots impacted. The 1,200-yard stage was particularly challenging, with wind conditions that made precision extremely difficult. Most competitors struggled to keep their shots within the scoring rings, and several experienced shooters recorded significant misses due to environmental factors. Sarah's approach to the extreme distance shooting was notably different from her earlier stages. She spent considerably more time reading wind conditions, using techniques that Marcus recognized as advanced environmental assessment methods. Her preparation for each shot was more deliberate, suggesting she understood the critical importance of environmental factors at extreme ranges. The first shot at 1,200 yards impacted near the center of the target, drawing immediate attention from observers. Through his spotting scope, Marcus could see that Sarah's bullet had struck closer to the center than shots from competitors with years of championship experience. Her environmental reading had been nearly perfect, compensating accurately for the complex wind conditions. "That's a remarkable shot," commented Janet Rodriguez, a veteran competitor who had won multiple state championships. 1,200 yards in these wind conditions requires exceptional skill. Who is the shooter? Marcus watched Sarah prepare for her second shot, noting the same calm deliberation that had characterized her performance throughout the competition. Her environmental assessment was thorough and professional, using techniques that suggested extensive training in challenging conditions. When the second shot impacted within inches of the first, observers began to take serious notice. By the completion of the 1,200-yard stage, Sarah had created a group that was among the smallest recorded in the competition's history. Her 5 shots clustered within a space that most competitors would consider exceptional at half the distance. The precision she demonstrated under extremely challenging conditions was remarkable by any standard. "I've never seen shooting like that from an unknown competitor," said Robert Kim, the competition director and former Olympic shooting team member. "Her performance at extreme distance is exceptional. Where did she train?" Marcus found himself in the awkward position of fielding questions about Sarah's background while respecting her apparent desire for discretion. "She's been working on advanced techniques," he said diplomatically. "Her natural ability is exceptional, and she's obviously put considerable effort into developing her skills." The final stage of the competition required shooters to engage targets at multiple distances under time pressure, simulating field conditions where rapid adaptation and quick decision-making were essential. The stage was designed to test not just shooting precision, but also the ability to maintain accuracy under stress and time constraints. Sarah's approach to the final stage demonstrated skills that went beyond recreational shooting. Her transitions between targets were efficient and professional, showing none of the hesitation that typically affected shooters under time pressure. Her ability to rapidly assess environmental conditions and make appropriate adjustments was remarkable, suggesting extensive experience shooting under operational conditions. Marcus watched through his spotting scope as Sarah engaged the final series of targets with precision that defied the challenging conditions and time constraints. Each shot found its mark with consistency that rivaled the performance of the most experienced competitive shooters. Her calm execution under pressure was exceptional, showing none of the degradation that stress typically caused in shooting performance. When the final scores were tallied, Sarah had achieved a total that placed her among the top finishers in the expert division, outperforming competitors with decades of experience and equipment worth tens of thousands of dollars. Her performance was not just impressive for a newcomer, but exceptional by any competitive standard. The awards ceremony drew attention to Sarah's remarkable achievement, but she accepted recognition with the same understated demeanor that had characterized her throughout the competition. Her brief comments focused on appreciating the opportunity to compete rather than celebrating her exceptional performance, suggesting someone who was accustomed to achievement without public recognition. After the ceremony, Marcus approached Sarah as she packed her equipment. "That was extraordinary shooting," he said. "Your performance today was among the best I've ever witnessed. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your preparation." "Thank you for your instruction," Sarah replied. "The techniques you taught me made a significant difference in my performance. Your focus on fundamentals helped me achieve consistency that I needed for specific applications." Marcus understood that Sarah was thanking him while maintaining discretion about the nature of those specific applications. Her performance during the competition had demonstrated skills that extended far beyond recreational shooting, suggesting preparation for professional applications where precision under pressure was essential. As Sarah finished packing her equipment, Marcus reflected on their training relationship and her remarkable competitive debut. Whatever her true background and professional applications, she had demonstrated shooting skills that represented the pinnacle of precision marksmanship. Her ability to maintain accuracy under challenging conditions and competitive pressure was exceptional, suggesting someone who operated at the highest levels of the shooting sports. The competition had revealed Sarah's true capabilities while maintaining the mystery of her background and purpose. Her performance answered questions about her skill level, while raising new ones about the applications for which she was preparing. Marcus was certain that whatever challenges Sarah faced in her professional life, she would be ready to meet them with the exceptional shooting skills she had demonstrated during the championship. The drive home from the competition gave Marcus time to process what he had witnessed. Sarah's performance had been remarkable, not just for its precision, but for the way it revealed capabilities that extended far beyond what she had initially shared. Her shooting suggested someone who operated at professional levels that few civilians ever achieved, regardless of their dedication to the sport. Marcus found himself grateful for the opportunity to work with someone who represented the pinnacle of shooting excellence, while respecting her discretion about the applications for which she was preparing. Whatever Sarah's true role, her dedication to achieving exceptional precision under any conditions was inspiring and suggested someone who took her responsibilities seriously enough to seek the best possible preparation. The announcement came through official channels 3 weeks after the championship, delivered with the kind of bureaucratic precision that masked its extraordinary nature. The Federal Bureau of Investigation was hosting a counter-sniper qualification course, and Marcus Shun had been selected to provide civilian instruction support. The course would bring together the most elite precision shooters from military special operations, federal law enforcement, and select civilian contractors for advanced training in extreme distance engagement protocols. Marcus arrived at the Federal Training Facility 2 hours before dawn, his instructor credentials verified through multiple security checkpoints. The facility sprawled across thousands of acres of varied terrain, with shooting ranges that extended to distances most civilian ranges couldn't accommodate. The morning briefing would introduce him to participants whose backgrounds remained largely classified, but whose shooting requirements pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible with precision rifles. In the pre-dawn darkness, Marcus observed figures moving through the facility with the quiet efficiency of people accustomed to operating in sensitive environments. Equipment cases were unloaded with care that suggested contents worth more than most people's houses. The atmosphere was professional and focused, lacking the casual camaraderie that characterized civilian competitive events. Agent Patricia Williams, the course director, briefed Marcus on his role as civilian technical advisor. His responsibility would be to provide expertise on advanced shooting techniques that complemented the tactical training these operators received through their primary agencies. The participants needed refinement in skills that could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. These are people who shoot professionally, Agent Williams explained as they walked through the facility. But they're preparing for applications that require precision beyond what most training programs address. Your expertise in extreme distance fundamentals will help them achieve consistency that their mission requirements demand. Marcus nodded, understanding that he would be working with individuals whose shooting skills were already exceptional, but who needed refinement for applications that remained classified. The facility's capabilities suggested training for scenarios that pushed the limits of what was possible with current technology and human skill. The participants gathered in the main briefing room as sunrise painted the eastern sky in shades of orange and gold. Marcus recognized the bearing of people who had been selected for roles that required exceptional competence under extreme pressure. Their equipment was uniformly high-end, but without the flashy customization that characterized civilian competitive gear. Everything was functional, reliable, and optimized for performance under operational conditions. Agent Williams began the briefing with an overview of the course objectives, emphasizing that participants would be evaluated not just on precision, but on their ability to maintain accuracy under conditions that simulated real-world operational stress. The scenarios would push each shooter to their limits, requiring technical skill, physical endurance, and mental resilience. This course will prepare you for engagements that require precision at distances up to 1,500 yards under adverse conditions, Agent Williams announced. You'll be evaluated on your ability to make first-round hits. When failure is not an option, Mr. Chun will be working with you on the technical aspects of extreme distance shooting that can make the difference between success and mission failure. Marcus scanned the room, noting faces that showed the kind of weathered confidence that came from years of high-stakes work. These were people who had been tested in situations where precision shooting was a matter of life and death. Their presence at this course suggested they were preparing for applications that required skills beyond what most people could imagine. Near the back of the room, Marcus noticed a familiar profile that made him pause mid-thought. Sarah Walsh sat quietly among the federal participants, her posture and bearing indistinguishable from the other operators. She wore the same tactical clothing as the other participants, and her equipment appeared to be government-issued rather than the civilian gear he had observed during their training sessions. The realization hit Marcus like a physical blow. Sarah wasn't a civilian contractor or a recreational shooter seeking professional instruction. She was a federal operator who had been preparing for applications that required precision beyond what her standard training provided. Her modest demeanor and civilian instruction requests had been operational security measures designed to protect her true identity and mission requirements. Agent Williams continued the briefing, outlining scenarios that would challenge each participant's ability to maintain precision under extreme stress. The course would simulate operational conditions where single shots at extreme distances could determine mission outcomes. Participants would be evaluated on their ability to perform under pressure that exceeded anything civilian competition could provide. The final evaluation will require each participant to engage a target at 1,400 yards under simulated operational stress, Agent Williams explained. You'll have environmental conditions that change rapidly, time pressure that simulates real-world constraints, and evaluation criteria that mirror actual mission requirements. Success requires not just technical skill, but the ability to perform when everything depends on a single shot. Marcus felt the weight of understanding settle over him. Sarah hadn't been preparing for competition or recreational shooting. She had been preparing for situations where her precision shooting skills would be deployed in service of national security objectives. The techniques he had taught her about environmental compensation and consistency under stress were being applied to operational scenarios where lives hung in the balance. During the break between briefing sessions, Marcus approached Sarah's position. She looked up from her equipment preparation, her expression showing neither surprise nor concern at his presence. The same calm demeanor that had characterized their civilian training sessions remained, but now Marcus understood it as the controlled composure of someone trained for high-stakes operations. "I understand now why you sought civilian instruction," Marcus said quietly. "Your operational requirements go beyond what standard training provides." Sarah nodded, her expression remaining neutral. "Your instruction helped me develop consistency that I needed for specific applications. The techniques you taught me about environmental compensation and precision under variable conditions were exactly what I needed for my mission requirements." Marcus felt a mixture of pride and sobering responsibility. The instruction he had provided wasn't just helping someone improve their recreational shooting, but contributing to someone's preparation for missions that serve national security objectives. The techniques he had taught Sarah about maintaining precision under challenging conditions were being applied to situations where accuracy could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. "I'm honored that my instruction contributed to your preparation," Marcus said. "Your performance during our training sessions was exceptional. And now I understand why you were so focused on consistency under adverse conditions." "Thank you for your discretion about my background," Sarah replied. "Operational security requires that we maintain cover identities when seeking supplemental training. Your instruction provided capabilities that I needed for mission success." Marcus understood that Sarah was thanking him for respecting her operational security while acknowledging that their training relationship had served purposes beyond what he had initially realized. The techniques he had taught her were being applied to missions that required precision under conditions that civilian training couldn't replicate. The morning's practical exercises began with scenarios designed to evaluate each participant's baseline capabilities. Marcus observed as federal operators demonstrated shooting skills that exceeded anything he had witnessed in civilian competition. Their precision under stress was remarkable, showing training that prepared them for situations where accuracy was a matter of life and death. Sarah's performance during the baseline evaluation was exceptional even among this elite group. Her shooting demonstrated the same precision and consistency that had impressed Marcus during their civilian training sessions, but now applied to scenarios that simulated real-world operational stress. Her ability to maintain accuracy under pressure was remarkable, showing preparation that went beyond recreational shooting. Marcus provided technical instruction on environmental compensation techniques that would help participants maintain precision under the challenging conditions they would face during operational deployments. His expertise in extreme distance shooting complemented the tactical training these operators received through their primary agencies, providing them with capabilities that could prove decisive in mission-critical situations. At distances beyond 1,000 yards, environmental factors become exponentially more significant, Marcus explained to the group. Temperature, atmospheric pressure, humidity, and wind all affect bullet flight in ways that require sophisticated compensation. The techniques I'm teaching you will help you maintain precision under conditions that challenge even experienced shooters. Sarah participated in the instruction with the same methodical approach he had observed during their civilian training sessions. Her questions demonstrated understanding of advanced ballistic principles that complemented her operational training, showing how civilian technical expertise could enhance already exceptional professional capabilities. The afternoon brought scenarios designed to simulate operational stress while requiring extreme precision. Participants engaged targets at distances up to 1,200 yards while dealing with time pressure, environmental challenges, and evaluation criteria that mirrored real-world mission requirements. The exercises pushed each operator to their limits, requiring technical skill combined with mental resilience. Marcus observed Sarah's performance during the high-stress scenarios, noting how the techniques he had taught her about consistency under pressure were being applied to situations that exceeded anything civilian training could provide. Her ability to maintain precision while dealing with operational stress was remarkable, showing preparation that served national security. Objectives. Your civilian instruction made a significant difference, Sarah said during a brief break between scenarios. The techniques you taught me about environmental compensation and consistency under variable conditions are exactly what I needed for my operational requirements. Thank you for helping me achieve the precision that my missions demand. Marcus felt the weight of understanding what his instruction had contributed to. The techniques he had taught Sarah about maintaining accuracy under challenging conditions were being applied to missions that served objectives beyond personal achievement or recreational satisfaction. Her preparation was serving purposes that protected national security and potentially saved lives. The final evaluation arrived with weather conditions that challenged even the most experienced participants. Wind gusts exceeded 30 miles per hour, temperature variations affected ballistic performance, and atmospheric conditions created challenges that required sophisticated compensation. The scenario simulated operational conditions where precision shooting would be required under the most demanding circumstances. Sarah approached the final evaluation with the same calm focus that had characterized her performance throughout their training relationship. Her preparation was methodical and professional, applying techniques that Marcus had taught her about environmental assessment and precision under stress. Her equipment handling remained efficient despite the challenging conditions, showing training that prepared her for operational deployments. The target for the final evaluation was positioned at 1,400 yards, a distance that required not just technical skill, but also sophisticated understanding of environmental factors and ballistic principles. The scenario included time pressure that simulated real-world constraints, requiring participants to achieve precision while dealing with stress that exceeded anything civilian competition could provide. Marcus watched through his spotting scope as Sarah prepared for her final shot. Her environmental assessment was thorough and professional, using techniques that combined his civilian instruction with her operational training. When she settled into position, her approach was methodical and deliberate, showing preparation that served mission-critical objectives. The shot broke with the same clean precision that had characterized Sarah's shooting throughout their training relationship. Through his spotting scope, Marcus could see the bullet impact at the center of the target, achieving accuracy that would satisfy the most demanding operational requirements. Her performance demonstrated capabilities that served national security objectives while reflecting the technical instruction he had provided. The final scores confirmed what Marcus had observed throughout the evaluation process. Sarah had achieved performance that exceeded the requirements for operational deployment, demonstrating precision that would serve her well in mission-critical situations. Her shooting reflected preparation that combined exceptional natural ability with training that served purposes beyond personal achievement. Agent Williams approached Marcus as the evaluation concluded, her expression showing professional satisfaction with the course outcomes. Your instruction contributed significantly to our participants' preparation, she said. The techniques you taught about environmental compensation and precision under stress will serve them well in operational deployments, where accuracy can mean the difference between mission success and failure. Marcus felt pride in his contribution to training that served national security objectives, while understanding that his role had been just one part of preparation for missions that remained classified. The techniques he had taught were being applied to situations where precision shooting served purposes that protected lives and advanced national interests. As participants packed their equipment and prepared to return to their operational assignments, Marcus reflected on his training relationship with Sarah and the purposes it had served. Her modest demeanor and civilian instruction requests had protected operational security, while allowing her to develop capabilities that would serve mission-critical objectives. Sarah approached Marcus as he prepared to leave the facility, her expression showing the same professional courtesy that had characterized their training relationship. "Thank you for your instruction," she said. "The techniques you taught me will serve me well in operational deployments where precision is essential. Your contribution to my preparation is appreciated." Marcus understood that Sarah was thanking him for instruction that had served purposes beyond what he had initially realized. The techniques he had taught her about maintaining precision under challenging conditions were being applied to missions that served national security objectives, making his contribution part of something larger than recreational shooting instruction. The drive home from the federal facility gave Marcus time to process what he had learned about Sarah's true identity and the purposes his instruction had served. Her performance during their training sessions had been preparation for missions that required precision under conditions that civilian training couldn't replicate. The techniques he had taught her were being applied to situations where accuracy could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Marcus felt gratitude for the opportunity to contribute to training that served national security objectives, while respecting the operational security requirements that had necessitated Sarah's discretion about her background. Whatever missions she would face in her operational deployments, he was confident that the techniques he had taught her would serve her well in situations where precision shooting protected lives and advanced national interests. The understanding that his civilian instruction had contributed to someone's preparation for missions that served purposes beyond personal achievement was both humbling and inspiring. Sarah's dedication to achieving exceptional precision under any conditions reflected commitment to objectives that protected national security and potentially saved lives. Her willingness to seek civilian instruction to supplement her operational training showed dedication to excellence that served purposes larger than individual achievement. Sometimes the greatest precision shooting happens in situations where no one will ever know the shooter's name or the mission they served. Sarah's story reminded Marcus that behind every exceptional shot fired in service of national security objectives, there were people who dedicated themselves to achieving precision that protected lives and advanced national interests. The techniques he had taught her would serve her well in operational deployments, where accuracy was a matter of life and death, and where success was measured not in scores or recognition, but in missions accomplished and lives protected. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.